Hey, it's Don the Auction Professor. Today is Sunday, so we're going to do another What Sold on eBay today. It's been a really hectic week here. I've got a lot of things going on. I got some good news on some dealings with some of the model work we got going on, which I'll be talking about in another video. But a lot of stuff's been going on, so I'm a little bit behind as it's been. Time gets harder and harder to spread across when you're doing so many more items. But anyway, we're going to go over the screen and we're going to show you some items that we sold. Okay, so the first item here, Christmas ornaments. I think I got 20 bucks out of these. It's just a random mix. They're nothing special. They're nothing super nice. They are vintage, obviously, 50s or so. Several of them are decent shaped-wise with some nice stenciling. So, 20 bucks out the door, that was fine. I only got a couple bucks into a big bag of these. I split them up into a few lots. They're paying shipping as well, too, full shipping. Next one, record, Six Brown Brothers. Now, this is a well-known track. They were a saxophone sextet. Just 6 people playing saxophone. This is Walking the Dog. There's been rehashes of this same basic song. For many years, they've turned it into like an R&B rocker kind of as well, too. Basically the same thing, but this is a jazz version on a Victor Batwing. Batwing, again, because of the Batwing style emblem at the top there. It's just what they call it. It's the 78. There's 2 versions of this kind of record, too. One with a big label and one with a smaller label, too. So, FYI, 15 bucks I took basically out of that one. All those are dollar records, too. Here's an early Valentine's card, 1882. It is dated. Rather interesting. This came with a holiday seasonal collector's collection from a well-known state that I was able to get into. It was a regional, well-known regionally one. I did some books and things like that. This was a pretty interesting one. 1750. It sold immediately. This one came out of a postcard collection about the size of a postcard, or pretty darn close. And it's Magnolia Ham, 1878, Uncle Sam. This one I think went for 50 bucks, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. Yeah, 50 bucks on this one. The same gentleman bought another card for 75, so I kind of washed them out between the two. So basically, I average between the two is like 68 bucks a piece on these. So I'm fine with that. Just depends on how much you have into something like this. But Uncle Sam's why this sold with the flag. National Geographic, I get about 15 bucks for these, the ones with the maps. Some of them I've sold for better than that, but I got a ton of these, and I've been selling 1 or 2 a week for quite some time, every week since I got them. So they more than have paid for themselves, like 10 times over on these. But again, 15 bucks. This one I took 25 on. This is a Civil War veterans piece, like a rank bar pin that they would have worn somewhere else. It's brass with enamel work on it. It's actually a really nice piece. I had a couple of these. This is like the last one left over. And it literally came from a estate sale, actually. Although this one I think I've showed in a haul like a while ago. This is the last one of these record player needles that I had. And it sold for $115 to Japan. It had all the paperwork and everything with it. I'm not a needle person or anything like that, so I don't know a bunch about these. Just know what you see here. So anyway, I know it was a good item either way. So this Knight KN500X is the version, the kind of record player this would go to. So anyway. Next one, a couple roller skating rink labels. These both went to, actually I sold 2 of these. Both went to the same person. I think I sold them for like 15 plus shipping each. So basically like 17 bucks a return on each one. I don't mind selling them for 15 a piece if the person is buying a couple, especially in that case I don't mind. I sold 2 or 3 at $27.50 or $60 I guess it would be at this point this week alone, which is basically the full price at a discount. So anyway, this one again, $27.60. And I sold, I think, 7 or 8 again, photos like this. Now this is a promotional item for Salem's Lot. And I had a couple from Salem's Lot, actually, and I think they've both sold now. But David Soul's in this, and that's why it's fairly... And James Mason, of course, but I've seen the movie, Halloween. Sold a bunch of those Halloween-related stills about that time. And Thanksgiving's coming in this week. I sold a dozen Thanksgiving-specific postcards. This one went for $10.15. They're $1 or less for these. I bought them in such high bulk, I couldn't really tell you what I paid for some of these at this point. Just because that's how they come in. So anyway, let's move on here. This one did go for $27.60. It's a real picture postcard, real photo postcard, however you want to call it, of Roy Rogers. And I showed some of these. I had a haul, and I actually have purchased 2 more lots of these, Tack-In and Ross Verlag postcards. So they do show up, and they do sell. They're just not real quick movers. I mean, if you get a rare one or something, like we sold a Lon Chaney one for 100 some odd bucks, like right after I listed it. But like on these Roy Roger ones with Trigger, I've sold, I think I only have 2 left, and I had 17 of them 3 months ago, I think is when I got those, or 2 months ago, somewhere in that range. So we've sold almost all of them in a good price range, and I only paid $1 or so for these things a piece, so I can't complain either way you look at it. Big Jim, I'm pretty sure I showed this. I took, geez, let me see what I got. I took 25 on him. He's got some discoloration and such, but he still works. No clothing or anything like that. He's karate chop action on this one. So 25 bucks, I was fine with that. If he had the clothing or something, I might get 50 or 60. I've sold a couple of these Big Jim figures for like 160 in the past. It just depends on which one you have. Some of the villains are hard to find. Some of the specialty figures, like the imports and such forth, are even harder to find. So anyway, that one was a decent one. Roller skating label, I won't go into more details. $27.60. Coleman Hawkins. Now, you should know who Coleman Hawkins is. Body and Soul, it's a classic. You know, everybody and their uncle has done this song. This is a jazz. Coleman Hawkins was in other bands as well before he was off on his own. This is an early Bluebird. World War II-ish era, 1940s. Original, excellent condition. I mean, just really nice condition. Plays throughout. So 20, I took 20 bucks on this one here. Actually, yeah, this one sold for 22, full price of the discount. I did some discounts, as I said. I've got a ton of records just waiting to go up, and I'm a big person to flush out some cash real quick here too. So in the season of fourth quarter, I just crank it out a lot of stuff this year. We're trying something different a little bit, and our sales are just skyrocket. So at this point, I'm not worried if we sell something a little cheaper. We've got some avenues that we're going to start at the beginning of the year, and I just wanted to up our banks and stuff. So you play your cards however you wish, but for us at this point, we're transitioning to other things. I've got, my model work is actually going fairly well. We've got some tentative deals we're working on right now for them. So, I'm going to crank some cash out here. And if we all want to float or do some other ideas and invest, which we do, we'll invest, some money into new avenues and things as well, too. Because you can't just start something and, not expect to have to sink some money into some things you do anyway. Not everything is like that, but with investing in making your own toys, you've got molds and, time and clay and, basic armatures and things like that. So it's not cheap. The clay that we use is pretty expensive. A pound of it can cost like 20 bucks or more. And it takes quite a few pounds to make anything because you're making molds and all that kind of stuff too. But anyway, let's move on here. Old newspaper. I think we got 14 out of this. This is typical what you get. Of course, I don't have but 50 cents or so in this. Maybe not even that much because we buy them in big bulk. And at this point, I'm actually looking for more newspapers. I'm down to like 5 newspapers. And at one point in the last 6 months, we had over 100 in stock. So if that tells you how many are been sold, we sold over 100 newspapers, vintage World War II newspapers. They're good movies. They don't sell real quick though, but as long as you've got patience and you're not stressed out for any cash issues, they'll have a pop here, a pop there. Some days you might sell 3 or 4 of them. You might go 2 or 3 weeks and not sell one, but then you'll sell a couple at full price, and you're going to have a huge profit. Even after the fees for everything you have up in the newspaper area. So that's anyway. I'm probably going to go into that in another video, some of the philosophy and break down cost-wise, holding on to stuff versus not holding on. Depending on what it is, of course. We look up everything. Another real photo postcard. I took 40 on this one, Golden Eagle Hotel. It's an interesting one. It's just not super scarce or super sought after because of the town that it's in and all. So anyway, it's got a California address on top of it, so it's a AZO, the whole works. It's a decent postcard. 40 bucks. I originally had it $57.50 with the make an offer, and that's what I ended up selling it for. Let's see here. Another real picture postcard, $12.95. It was up for a little while, maybe 2 months, so I've got, 10 cents at the most, probably around 8 cents, because depending on where I fall, whether it's my 10,000 freebies on this store or above that. So anyway, it's pretty well labeled who they are, where they're from. They're from Manhattan. He's got the Manhattan flag. They're in the tent, all dressed up in, gear in the works, and it's just rather an interesting image here. $12.95. Nothing particular other than the fact of, where it was. And there might be some information somebody could glean from who sent it and such forth. But other than that, this is a 50-cent postcard. I picked up a whole bunch of these for like 50 cents. Nondescript. It doesn't really say much other than Army Life. But the Manhattan flag, I'm sure, is why somebody bought it. This is a tobacco card. I purchased a huge tobacco lot of stuff at an auction not too long ago. And this is just one of the cards, and it was hockey. I didn't know it was hockey when I just literally bought a random box of cards, and this just happened to be in there. Cigar stuff always seems to sell. This one I got 50 out of. I had it up for 135, so it's the same philosophy I always talk about. We put it up really high, and then I actually turned down quite a few bids on this one, and then I just settled on 50. I really was looking for 60 out of it, but 10 bucks here or there isn't a big deal. This lot has been paid for, 10-fold over. I think we sold 2 or 3 things out of it and doubled our money just on those couple things. That's just the way it works for stuff like this, depending on how you get them. These are auction stuff. Auctions are where it's at for a lot of this kind of stuff, for us anyway. And pickers find stuff, and I don't even know where some of this stuff comes from when the picker brings it to us. Like this one here. This came from a picker. $12.95. Just I ran a sale, and boom, it was gone like right off the bat. I don't mind on any of these. If it's who knows what they're really worth. A lot of these labels run in the $6 to $8 range, honestly. Some of them down to $4 and $5, the same levels that I'm selling. So I put them up high. You have to play the game. Who's going to actually look it up to see if it's worth that? The Roosevelt is a well-known hotel. I've sold probably a dozen different things from the Roosevelt in New Orleans. There's other Roosevelt hotels in other cities too, and I think there's a Roosevelt in New York City has one too, or had one, I should say. So all these luggage labels sell for the most part. It'll be someone from New Orleans who collects it and stuff like that too. So anyway. Just threw a film in here. I sold quite a few. I showed a lot for Halloween. I've been whittling through selling them, a few here, a few there. We've to the point where we're broken even on just a few that we've sold. And at this point, anything else comes in is just going to be gravy. So I don't really worry, especially when, everybody's happy with what they're getting. So anyway, that's just a perfect example of what we sell. It's about a 15 or 18 minute short, basically. Let's go on. Now, I picked up, and I've talked about this too, I went to an auction. Photos could have been a little darker. I don't list every one, but this is a good example. I took 30 on this lot here. It's 19 die cuts. Again, I went to a scrapbooking auction. It was a craft and scrapbooking auction, it was marked as. And they had tons of stampers, which I did actually buy some. I bought some punches, mostly stuff to use for art or, things along that line. But I do buy tools and art supplies at these places because I do a lot of art. So I bought some tools, and there happened to be a ton of Victorian era die cuts and stuff. Still, many of them still on a sheet. So I broke them up from the sheets and split them up in lots and sold them that way. Sheets, you kind of give them away because it's all the same image usually on some of them, or just 2 rotational heads or something along that line. So you're not going to get as much money for identical ones. So I usually break them up, sheet or not. It doesn't seem to kill the value at all for me. And you have to, again, know which ones are the vintage ones. I've had 10,000 or more of these kind of things, maybe more than that even in the last couple of years. Again, just because I go to all the oddball events and auctions. I was literally going to this last one for the art supplies. There were some linotypes and stuff like that there, and some other silk screening material that I was really interested in. I got outbid on the silk screening. I could have almost bought new for what it ended up going for. Somebody just didn't know what they were doing, I would guess, or they wanted the 6-color spinner disc or something. But anyway, I ended up scoring huge on stuff that I wasn't even planning on getting. Didn't even know it was going to be there. I took a shot because of this art supplies and the fact that it said scrapbooker. Again, though, I am an artist as well, too, and I do things. So for me, I can go to sales, and if they don't have anything old, I don't really care. because I still get supplies and items and tools and specialty tweezers and needle nose pliers and all just kinds of things like that, magnifiers and cutting mats and even used paint tubes, with still paint that's good in them, because you can get a ton of high value paint tubes, even with a quarter of it gone or something, for almost nothing at one of these sales. And I don't mind if they're used that way. Let's say there's a 10-ounce titanium white alkyd oil paint or something like that there in a tube, and because white comes in big tubes, and something like that at the store, like a Nice Winter and Newton or something along that line, might sell for $60 or more for that specific paint tube. At an auction or something like that, I might only pay $2 or $3 for the rest of the tube. So even if it's half full at $2 or $3, I'm cutting the cost down tremendously. I talk about selling used supplies too. You can even sell the used art supplies too. I've bought some used ones from like Etsy and stuff in the past too. So anyway, that's just an FYI on that. Just like some of the items I sell, I've been a collector most of my life on some items. So I've always known about certain items, whether I was thinking about them for resale value or not. I've always known about them. So I've got it more in than a lot of people, because I have people I can trade items with, even if I can't sell them. It just depends on what they are, of course. Like some of the non-sports cards, I can get rid of those any day of the week, even offline with no problem other than, just a quick phone call to some people. So anyway, it helps to be a collector as well, because we still collect stuff. I've gotten into some collectibles. I collect leather jackets, as I've talked about before, so that's just another example of things we do. But let's move on to the next one. I picked up a whole stack of these, and these are Victorian, very fanciful Valentine's cards. And most people, wouldn't think much of these. I didn't think a whole lot of them. I think there was 27 of them, something like that. And I broke them up into 6 lots, or lots of 6. And I've been selling the lots of 6 for 25 to say, I think one of them went for like 42 or somewhere in that range. This one went for 35. They're nothing fancy. These are very common cards. They're not huge movers at all, honestly. So you're going to put them up and they'll sit for a little while, but when they do sell, you're usually getting good money, enough to pay for a couple years worth of listing your price into them, and then still make a 3 or 4x profit on them too. So, $35. I got like $5 in a huge stack with the 27 that I got. So anyway, some more die cuts, same sale. There was leaves and numerous sheets. This is breakdown from like 6 different sheets that we tore up. And, they're just usually repeating, as I said. So you just got to be careful. These kind of things always sell. Most people don't think much of these because they're just, literally leaves. There you can see the size of some of these. Now, like I said, some of them are in sheets. This one does have some of the same, but I have like 80 of these identical ones, or almost identical, with the lily of the valley looking things and the drying leaves. So, these sell, and they're usually bought by a scrapbook collector or like a random diary person or something like that, like DeviantArt or something along that line. But, it's a good price on these too, so anyway. And then just another film. This is a 16 millimeter. Spike Jones is like a Western. This is like a bar scene or something in there. I can't play the 16 anymore. My projector needs a bulb. But I have got a couple of 8 millimeters. Unfortunately, they don't crisscross because of the size. Obviously, they don't fit. But again, this came out of that same big lot. And just an example, I sold quite a few this week, actually. We just listed them, and we started blowing them out. Again, as I said, I'm at the break-even point. So everything else from here on in is profit. And the better ones are still here. We only sold the lesser ones, the ones I didn't think would sell and I'd be sitting on forever. Those ones went real quick. So like the Bride of Frankenstein and Psycho are still there, which I'm fine because, I'll end up taking $50-$60 for either one of those. And, I think I've got like 34 lots of these up right now of various films. So anyway, you can't beat it when it's like that. And I only had them up for a couple days and I already got my money back out of them. So literally I've got nothing and anything that's up now on these films. 16, 18, or 16, 8 millimeter. I even got some 35 the other day too. And I've got boxes of 8 millimeter. Right now I'm sitting on probably adult film-wise 8 millimeter from the 50s, like Stag Style. There's a few from the 40s. I'm probably sitting on close to 150 reels of that, and they're 400-foot reels, which are 20 minutes. I've got a couple full-length movies, on 4 reels that go to sets of adults, and then I've got home movies from, all over the place. Some really nice lots of home movies. I've probably got 250 reels of those. None of those have been listed, so, I stagger these off just because it takes a little more time to list them. So the movies have never went down in price ever since I've been selling movies. I still get good money on the movies ever since I've sold them. And I sold home movies back 20 years ago occasionally here and there because I did play some and we messed around, and I used to do like slasher films on our own. We'd shoot our own horror films with some friends when I was like 15, and I'd do some animation back then as well, with the camera animation, stop motion animation, things like that. So I've always been into film, and I always picked up footage at garage sales and stuff. So the prices never ever went down that I see. Some of the prices on like feature films, like let's say you bought a Star Wars, a full length 8mm film Star Wars, price on that's I guess right now it's probably about what it's usually at, $400 or $500 minimum. I've seen them up to $1,600 for an excellent copy, but anyway, that's enough on that. But that's what I have for you today. Hopefully that gave you some thoughts. Well, there you go. There's some items we sold. Hopefully that gave you some ideas and some thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified when we post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell a friend.